And lest you think that these stories are far-fetched, Gita, with whom I visited in a brothel in Kamatipura, she also had tuberculosis. She died on the street, and her corpse was tended to by the staff members of Population Services International, the public health NGO with whom I work. And lest you think these stories are far-fetched, one of the first brothels to which I went, there were police on hand. I thought, oh, how nice of them to be here to look out for me. They weren't paying. They were there for sex that they were extorting without pay. They weren't there to help protect me. And lest you think these stories are far-fetched, a beautiful young woman with whom I visited in Nairobi was still lactating from the delivery of her second child, who she conceived by a rapist. She was pushed into paid sex to try to feed her first child. They're not far-fetched. They are real, and it's my privilege and honor to read to you a story. And I just want to close this part of my remarks by saying, when it was mentioned that Ruchira does not bear arms as a practitioner of ahimsa nonviolence, her arms are broad and roomy and spacious, and they give love. They give housing to girls from Tennessee and Kentucky who like to stay with people and not in hotels in New York. So she has the right kind of arms with which she is involved in the struggle. This is on page 43 from the story The Last Customer in the book River of Flesh. The rain became heavy, and there were no customers in sight. Slowly, her earnings dwindled. Kani grew frail and weak. She started walking up to people and seeking them out. Her cheeks dropped, and her eyes grew vacant and dark. A fever was rising in her. She adorned herself more intensely to fight it off. From a distance, with her woolen coat and flowers in her hair, she looked just about bearable. But if one were to see her up close, her eyes looked like they were dancing, like ghosts. Some louts would come over to the school where she slept at night, but they would not give her a paisa in return. She would pick a fight with them, but they would continue to pester her endlessly and rape her. Their rapacious laughs and beastly howls would make Kani shudder. When her protests became pointless, she would resign to her fate and submit to them. Her fever increased. She felt a voice within telling her not to take those baths at the lake. Before long, her skin was afflicted with a strange disease. The young Kani suffered. Her body began giving off a foul odor. Kani changed her shelter. She walked toward a rundown hut a furlong away. There, a middle-aged beggar had built himself his own palace. He fed her gruel for some 3 days. She gaped at the sky through the holes in the thatched roof as she fell asleep. On the 4th day, her fever appeared to subside. She sat up. The beggar looked at her with desire. Excuse me. Her face did not betray a trace of emotion. She had become incapable of experiencing emotion a long time ago. He skipped his begging round for the day, staying back and with her. His diseased body seemed to be making good on all the desire it had missed out on. In the evening, with her black overcoat upon her, Kani walked past the field and stood by its edge where it was dark. She was feeling faint. The piece of land they had once tilled, her mother, her father, the stump-armed lover, all of them walked past it in a procession in her mind's eye. The brother who had left to become a coolie at Madras, and the one who had left home in a fit of anger, seemed to her to be hailing her from a distance. She was filled with grief. Unable to stand for long, she collapsed on the ground. In the distance, the ground nut hawker's kerosene lamp glimmed and called out to her. But she did not have even a paisa. She wanted to snatch fistfuls of ground nuts and gobble them up, but she did not have the strength. It was 1 in the night. Before long, it turned past. Everyone who was strolling near the fountain left himself. He spat at her with scorn, and he tried to sit up. She had no energy left. He spat at her again and left without pain. She opened her mouth as if to wail loudly, but no sound emerged. She tried to stand up again, and she could not manage. He was walking away with quick strides. Finally, she managed to find her feet. She chased him like a mother would chase a villain stealing her child. She wailed in her hoarse voice and kicked up a fuss. He was running away without paying her. She was beseeching him with her babble not to deceive her. She was crying out to him, saying, "Do not cheat me of tomorrow's meal." He looked back at her with dread. Some people were still around. What if they heard? What if some people came up, tapped him on the shoulder, and asked him to explain himself? He stopped abruptly and returned, clutching her throat. He pushed her to the ground and swore at her, "Dirty bitch." He kicked her in the stomach. Maddie collapsed in an instant. There were growls in her throat. There was still some breathing, slow first, then rare. Her final breaths were more labored. Everyone was on the move. No one had time to stop. Someone said the municipal van would come by to pick up the corpse. Up in the skies, a vulture circled and spiraled down. Patty lay there with her eyes open, as if keenly eyeing it. The vulture was slowly closing in to light upon her. The last customer.
I'd like to